meeting, the Molina meeting, that was 8 hours. Worth, yes.
You know,
Worth
I'll
it.
be honest with you, if it was like the SRI, they give $550 or whatever,
Oh,
you know, that'd be, yeah, I'd be like, I'll take, yeah, sign me up for that, please.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, the SRI is equal. And I mean, out there, the beach and all that, it seems nice. I was like, man, I pulled the short stick.
Yeah. But again, you're doing your civil duty.
I love it, living on the road, so.
Robin has to come tomorrow and testify for, the competency board. He's dying inside. Dying.
We're gonna get Larry back on?
No, I don't think so.
I'm shocked he didn't show up today, actually.
It's not 8:30. It's also
No,
not
he usually
8:35.
shows up early.
Yeah, he's,
I was scared seeing him last month, I was like, he's gonna be there.
he got, he went silent for a while, but he's back, so, more and more meetings. Yep.
Yeah, we have to hear about COVID again.
I start wearing masks just to get to him.
Oh my god.
That will set him off.
Just have my drink, pull my mask down. Whenever I sneeze, just pull it down to.
Oh. Were you all at the meeting with swearing in roll? You're all at the meeting with the swearing in, what was it, like 22? When Larry signed up to speak at the public forum during the swearing in, everyone in the room was like, what's going on here?
I stopped watching the meetings a long time ago.
What was the swearing in? No one realized there was a public forum sign up. Well, he walks up there and starts going off, holding up this thing that's like, Larry, what are you doing?
I tell him before every public forum, Larry, read the room. Okay?
Is this the right, place?
Yeah, make sure you're speaking to the right, appropriate issues at the appropriate place. Hey, there he is. Good morning. There's Jay. Will I make it by 8:30? There he is.
I figured we'd be getting waves of them from all the other ones getting kicked back.
That's just the way it's worked
There we
out. Huh?
Have this thing tight, please, Robin.
Coming right at the hook.
Right, and Tim. Tim's here.
You guys not in it. We already left that.
There we go. Okay,
Tim's still here.
8:30, according to the official computer clock.
Alrighty.
I'll wait.
Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Escambia County Planning Board to order for March 5th, 2024. If everyone could, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Do we have proof of publication?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of the legal advertisement.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes. All right, we've got a recommendation that planning board review and approve the meeting minutes of February 6, 2024 that have been previously provided to the board. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from February 6.
Motion to approve?
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Let's see. do we need to have I'll entertain a motion for the acceptance of the planning board meeting packet dated March 5th, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? All right, and we've got one action slash discussion slash info item today, and that's a recommendation concerning the NAS Pensacola compatible use study. And that the board review and recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners, the NAS Pensacola compatibility study. So I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Andrew Holmer, Escambia County Development Services Department. So, I realize on your agenda, this is down as an action item. There isn't really anything to vote on. Study's been completed. I'm bringing it to the planning board and then to the BCC for acknowledgement that we have received our finalized study. There are going to be actions associated with this that we will take in the future based on recommendations. And there's specific reasons for that. This compatible use study is an update to our 2003 joint land use study. At that time, the study that was done had very specific recommendations of things to change in our land development code. And it was adopted with those recommendations, and then those were implemented over that year, the next couple of years there. Most communities, when they're taking on one of these studies, it's like we were in 03, it was starting from scratch. We don't have regulations. We need to get some concerning issues that affect compatibility with the base's mission. Because we already have all that in place and it's working quite well, this study is simply an update because we had, since 2003, it's been quite a while. This is just simply an update. And this is not an update to our ACUs, which is the other study that we have already updated. That's concerning airfield influence planning districts, our AIPDs, our accident zones. That is up to date. This is simply a way of us gaining some recommendations about some fine tuning we can make to our current regulations. So as you go through this study, like I said, you're not going to find very specific, go to LDC chapter, section, page, and change this line to that. It does have suggestions of some things we can do. And at the end of it, the last chapter, if you can, Rachel, pull that up. The last chapter, chapter 7, it is implementation strategies. And a number of the things that are listed in here are some good ideas. While this may not have complete specifics on it, it does highlight some issues that over the years staff noticed, hey, we need to come up with a way to address this. This is a good idea. Let's pull together the things we've talked about over the years and make some individual code changes related to that. By way of example, one of the recommendations is essentially a 5-mile barrier around the base, or I don't want to say barrier, a zone. There you go, a 5-mile zone around the base, a BASH zone. Now, this is related to birds, okay, with the issues of airstrikes on birds. It would be difficult if we were to just draw that out and say, okay, in this area 5 miles out from the base, we're going to do everything we can to discourage birds from congregating, discourage things that would attract them. Sounds easy. Birds are highly mobile. And also included within that 5 mile is national seashore property that is a sanctuary for birds, and it's encouraged that they're there nesting. So one of the ideas that we have discussed is, instead of, let's say, take this area and impose some sort of moratorium on X, Y, Z, let's look at ideas that are already in place in other areas that can help us reduce things that could attract those birds and be a potential hazard. I got a list from the Pensacola International Airport. They got a list from the FAA of plant species, trees and plants that have a low amount of seed, low amount of fruit, things that attract birds. And this is a list they use for landscaping around the airport, so that you're not attracting birds. So that's one of those examples. We could say let's adopt this list in our DSM. So when someone comes in with a commercial project and we're telling them you have to put in landscaping and you're this close to the base, instead of putting that plant, use this plant, that sort of thing. Another attractant for birds is ponds, stormwater ponds. Unfortunately, in the southwest portion of the county where the base is, you have very high water table. So stormwater ponds are going to quite often be wet ponds, which are wide and shallow because of the water table. But there are other ideas that we could incorporate that would help mitigate the attractant of that to birds. Can't do anything about the bay and the Gulf. But as far as
Which covers about 50% of that zone.
Right, right.
That's a tough one.
So the recommendation for this 5-mile zone, spirit and intent is great. I get it. I would hesitate to us adopt something whole for the whole thing, given the unique circumstance that half of it is water. Another idea that has come around is within our ACUS zones, there's some uses that are prohibited. One of them that keeps coming back up is covered storage. The idea of, let's say somebody's got a big piece of property out there, there is some density allowed. Instead of having them build houses, if it's commercial and they want to put a storage units, let's look at revisiting that. Do we want to have population density, or somebody's a building full of Christmas decorations, right? As far as in that accident potential zone. So when I say we're going to come back, we're going to take these implementation strategies and make these suggestions realistic to what we're doing. There's nothing in here about prohibiting any uses. We already have all the regulations for that. There's nothing in here about prohibiting density. We already have that. These different ideas, such as, hey, it's been noted through this study we have some incompatible uses in the accident potential zones. Again, separate study, but it all ties together. Yes, we have some density out there. There's homes that are out there people have had, and if they want to replace their house, we're going to let them. We control the density in those areas. While that use shows up in the study, because as you go through the tables, you can say, wow, there's a lot of acreage here that either the future land use or the zoning isn't compatible because it allows density. Yes, it does, but we're not going to change the future land use on a piece of property that's swamp and is owned by the state, or it's mitigation land. So those acreage, as you go through the tables, those acreages sometimes jump out. At least to me, they do every time, and I think, wait a minute, we're doing everything right. Why does this say it's incompatible? It's just there's so many specific local factors that get involved. Again, we're doing all the right stuff. Other communities may be just getting started from scratch. We're updating a model that already works. So, questions?
Drew, if I may, thank you, Drew, for a good overview, because, we, yeah, as you stated, I mean, and we have our liaison, Mr. Openek. We work very closely with them when it comes to site plan, development, residential, properties that come. And as y'all know, for the planning board, we've had rezonings basically that has impacted them, and basically staff said no. And the board agreed to those things, based upon those. So we are doing the right thing. As Drew stated, sometimes they don't always know the specific details of everything that we do look at, that we have to look at, that we've been doing. So we want to continue on that track. But we will be coming back and reviewing it with staff to see if those things can enhance it and make it even better.
Thank you. Yep, that's a good way to look at it. This update is simply giving us some new ideas and strategies to make things better than they currently are.
The only comment I have, and yes, sir, I know we're looking at it and stuff, but I just want to make sure everybody realizes how far 5 miles is. 5 miles from the eastern side is the 3 Mile Bridge. 5 miles from the northern side is above Fairfield. So that literally takes out all of Myrtle Grove, everything west, Perdido, and everything of that nature. This is a 5 miles is a little extreme, as y'all are aware. You can see the map. But I understand that y'all are working, trying to find the guidelines that y'all are trying to work with. I just want to
Correct. And that's
point that out, how far away that 5 miles is. That's pretty huge.
And that's an excellent point, and that goes towards why we're bringing this to you, just so we're acknowledging the study is completed. I can close this out with our grant, but we're not asking for the BCC to adopt this as it is. Those suggestions need to be fine-tuned. It's a guidance document, but at a local level, we need to fine-tune this to our unique situation.
The 5 miles is also, if our air traffic control officer was standing up here right now, he would say that 5 miles is where he looks all the way around the base, and that's his airspace. That's what he looks at. Doesn't mean they can't stop anyone from entering it, but that's the bash zone as it is kind of coincides with that same sized area. Because we've had drone requests for folks out at Bronson Field, which is one of ours. We had to say no. The Modelers Club, I remember that was the reason, and they really went crazy over that. But they were flying model airplanes, or the hobby aircraft, and it was a good relationship. But once we had guidance that came down and they said, no, it falls in our 5 miles, we have to say no. And so it seems like that kind of coincides with that. But I agree that handling areas that promote bird attraction in neighborhoods that have to have retention ponds. I mean, I think it's worth looking at. I mean, we look at every property that way, but we got to be realistic too. I mean, planes are pretty high at that point. So it's a good suggestion.
It absolutely is. That's why I reached out to the folks at the airport and said, hey, what are you guys doing here? I didn't know about this landscape guide at the time, but I have it now. And like I said, we, from a staff perspective, want to take the suggestions of this study and come up with realistic, practical changes that meet the needs of our community and enhance our compatibility with the base's mission.
If everything don't work for every municipality. It just doesn't. We could, and practical, and I'm glad Mr. Steven said what he said. I mean, and if there's any issue that may come up, I know that he'll let us know during DRC, so what to look for.
Are there other regions in Florida that have finished CUS studies and have implemented a strategy?
Yes. Yes.
And we feel, more from a 30,000 foot view, we're addressing the exact same things that their studies address?
We are. So as part of this has been a long process. There's a number of factors that kept bumping it out and bumping it out. I felt like we could never get to the end. I went to a conference for communities that were a nationwide conference of all these communities that were doing these sort of studies. Frankly, I was shocked how far ahead we were of the game. Now,
I asked, have you seen finished CUS
Yes.
strategies? Because you did say before we're ahead of the game. Just wondering, are we in harmony with these other studies? Do you feel we're more detailed? Are we overreaching somewhere? Are we neglecting a category or a topic?
no, I don't see that. What I see is some suggestions in general areas that I know other folks are dealing with. Hurlburt, Eglin, Tyndall, as you keep going, other bases in the state. In fact, we made LDC changes a few years back. The state had mandated for every municipality that has airfield type issues, so that the state is looking for a unified approach on that. Again, each base has different issues as far as compatibility. There's discussion in here on some ideas regarding housing. Well, there's a limit to what we can do in the land development code. It says there's a lot of these encourage, looking for this, encourage identifying properties. Correct. Which again brings right back into this idea of we're not adopting this as an official document. It's some guidelines, and we're going to work on those as time goes through.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on what Eric said is this something that the Air Force has to do? And the reason I ask is I feel like MacDill Air Force Base is, right in the middle of St. Pete, Tampa, Sarasota, and heavy densities all
Yep.
surrounding, also a ton of water. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's going to be different than you have up in Dothan, right? Where they've got all the fixed wing, or not fixed wing. They've got rotary.
It's
Whiting-
different, it's different from Whiting.
Whiting, yeah. Heck, I was at Holloman out in the middle of the desert. That's completely different, but same thing. They have a compatible use study as well. It's just your local staff is going to fine tune it to your particular challenges.
I guess the question though, maybe, and I know there's some people on the county level and other strokes of this that feel, does this study actually help Escambia County maintain that mission?
Yes. So-
That's the biggest thing is there anything detrimental when this goes and sits on the DOD, shelf that's going to hurt us more?
So
Because we're competing against Corpus Christi for a lot of stuff. So how
This-
do we stack up against them?
I haven't gone through the Corpus Christi study. We did go through this. Commissioner Kohler, this is all happening in his district. He gave Matrix, our contractor, an extensive list of very specific ideas he wanted to see included in this, and things put in, things taken out. They did so in the final document based on those suggestions. We stretched out our time frame to make sure we got all that addressed. I can't speak for DOD. Is there some office in Washington that just looks at this as, Okay, do you have one? Yes. Next. For us, it's not that. It's what can we do to enhance what we're already doing?
And even Matrix, when they was here, they indicated that other places have used what we've already had as a foundation, and they took that's hey, Scammon County. They were impressed about some things that we already were doing and that we had in place as well. So again, these are just enhancement guidelines because they say, wow, y'all are so far ahead of the game than so many other counties and so many other places were based. So, but again, yes, we can always improve, but it's a pretty good report from my indicating. I've been ever since we've always looking at these studies. So I think, of course, improvements are always necessary, and sometimes regulation for the federal government, many times that's beyond anybody's control except them.
I would add to, there are literally, I will say several hundred of these already out there in the community, various communities. The Office of Local Defense Community Cooperation is a DoD organization, and that's who funded this. It used to be OEA, Office of Economic Adjustment, and one of their sole missions is to make sure that federal installations, military installations, and communities are doing what they can to not so much get along, but to make sure that compatible. I mean, that's one of their key words. Land use. There's a lot of communities that they don't have a relationship like this. They don't have a guy that sits on the board in other communities. I mean, if you take this out a little further than just Florida, across the United States, they do these studies all the time. I know there was a little bit of angst from one of the commissioners about this, points out bad stuff. Well, maybe there is bad stuff. Walk out of Corey Station at midnight and tell me how you feel. It wasn't well lit. There's debris. That's one of the things that I personally pointed out originally because I wanted to see a look at least at Corey Station and the area in that, so that it's well lit and at least it's safe. It's not only safe for sailors, it's safe for citizens. So there's a good dual use there that is worth our investment in time. It's worth us talking about it. Back to a couple things that if I can steal the mic here for a couple minutes, back for what Andrew said, the 2003 JLUIS went a long way to establish things that we use every day. I went back through and refreshed my memory, and there were like 7 hard suggestions, and I think 6 of them we use. I couldn't even understand the 7th one, so and I don't think it's actually implemented. So we use all that. That all builds up onto our air installation compatible use zone, the ACUs. That helps to build up into that because some of those tools kind of interact together. So we're able to use that to at least address and pay attention to communities that want to build in our area. If it was up to me, and I've said this many times, I would have nothing but live oaks and grass underneath our ACUs, but that's not practical. And there's neighborhoods that have been there for 20 or 30 years that aren't going to move. And that's fine, but we have to learn how to, best manage as it keeps going on. And, we have programs where we can, buy property, things like that, try to tamp down tamp it down. So this has morphed over time. The compatible use study was called something before. It was called CUS, and as we were doing this, we started this in 2017. And that's when I first sent the first letter to try to get funded for this. And it was meant to be just an update, just as Andrew said. It was an update to the 2003. When I look through it, I say that it's a fresh update of facts we already knew. It's presented in a more, I would say, up-to-date way. You look at this study, and you look at the 2003 JLUIS, and you could just, the graphics alone, you can say, no, I understand that, I get it. And so there's, it's a good fresh look at the inventory of things that we already do. There's a couple of things in there that kind of made me, squirm in my seat a little bit, but That's okay. That's why we have somebody else doing this and not doing it internally. It was a long, hard road, and it's taken a long time. COVID, lots of things came in that kind of derailed us a little bit. But I think if there was anything that I would say I would have liked to seen better, I would have liked to seen more of the interaction with some of the committee. We had some members from various communities come in, but I sure would have liked to seen that a little bit better. I think the ones that were relevant were there.
Yes.
So I'm glad we finally got to this point. I don't find anything in here that is not worth taking a look at. That's all I have.
You know, the other comment last comment from me is, I appreciate, I'm glad that we're on the cusp of ahead of everybody, but there's some things when it comes to restrictions, I don't like being ahead of everybody. I kind of like seeing how it works out for other communities. And just, not huge knowledge of all the Air Force bases and Naval Air Force bases and such. My assumption would be Jacksonville would be as close to us as anything, because you're not quite 5 miles, it's not quite in the city. So it's kind of the southern part, Orange Park and Meadowbrook and all those areas. So it's kind of more like Pensacola. Corpus Christi wouldn't really be like us. Too many bays and too many natural areas that are already blocked out. So I'd kind of look at it more like Jacksonville, and again, kind of seeing how communities such as that. I know St. Petersburg would be great, but that's a lot more urban too. A little bit less suburban. We're a suburban town. We're not an urban town. So, and the parts of Jacksonville that are around Jackson NAS is more like Pensacola and Escambia County. So I would like to see how they're interacting with this, how their process is. Love being on the front of things that are really cool and really great. Really don't like being on the front of things when it comes to restrictions. That's just the way I look at things.
That's kind of why I'm going to be bringing this board some discussion items on these suggestions, and hey, how can we fine tune what we already have to kind of move forward? Can we enhance what we have? Let's face it, the restrictions that come through the ACUS study, those are in place. We're not looking to pile something on top of that. We're looking to make things better. This is I've looked at this study the whole way through as this is a real positive for us. Let's make sure when this gets sent to the folks in DC, a main focus of this is, look how good we're already doing here. Look how good our relationship is, and look how compatible we are. Here's some enhancements we want to make to that.
I want to add one more thing, or maybe two. There are some things in here that make, so the concern is, does this make NAS Pensacola vulnerable to realignments, things like that? I understand that we should always be concerned about that for a list of reasons to do that. There's things in this study that we don't control that aren't covered in this study. Correct. Schools, that's a big topic for compatible use, although it's not a land, as far as this goes, that's an issue for us. It does make a difference of how military members and families and civilians can live in this area. And that's one of those aspects that do that. Crime comes up. That's another livable, they would take a look at that. But that's not really what makes a base close or not. What makes a base close or not is the mission. Is it worth having the mission here? Is it worth, NAS Pensacola has been here since 1914. I probably before that actually, but that's when we became an air station. 1911. Well, we became an air station, I think, officially. So anyways, early 1900s. So we've been around for a while. I mean, climate is another area that is got a lot of attention right now, and they look at how climate affects the facilities that are there. We have a lot of aging facilities. Those are what people are considering when they're looking at Pensacola, not necessarily how much debris there is outside of Corey Station, but more of, can we continue to spend the money to maintain this base? Is it being so close to the coast? There's good parts to that because we have good flying airspace. We have good weather for the most part. And so those are kinds of things that they would pick apart. I would say if you were somebody in a cubicle up in Washington, D.C., they would be more so considering those kinds of things. Do you have the mission here? With drone, there's more drone pilots out there. There's less people flying. That's just one little aspect. Little things like that could be the things that they would consider. I don't see anything in here that makes us, lined up for base closure. There's no base, there's no BRAC. Nobody has appetites for that. If we're going to close anything, we're going to close Softly Field. We're going to close, Bronson. We're going to do things along those lines and try to realign some things. But I understand the sensitivity to that, and we have community members and community leaders that are working on that all the time and thinking about it all the time. But we are a training base. We're not Tyndall with operational footprint with very large war-fighting jets. We train here, and that kind of puts us a rung, I hate to say below, but when it comes to the facilities world and base enhancements, it doesn't garner as much as a straight up tip of the spear warfighting base. Without us, they can't have them, but they,
Right.
So.
And we did, thank you for hitting on that about the schools and the things that are outside of our control. We did have an extensive conversation with the base commander and the XO. And a lot of things that were covered in there are quality of life issues. Because, yes, we have students coming in and out, sometimes young kids right out of basic coming through. But we also have a large presence of somebody's got to teach them, right? A lot of these people are bringing families. So we discussed that, where does this base population live? What kind of housing opportunities are out there? The schools. So many of those things are outside of our control. But like I said, we're going to enhance everything that we can to bring us up to date.
All right.
Good.
Can you paint a picture for us of next steps and
Sure.
sequencing, and then the exact role this committee plays in bringing closure to the strategy?
So next step, we're taking this to the county commission on the 21st. So that we can present it, and I can then go back to the feds and say we've presented it to our county commission. We're done with that portion. We're ready to move into implementation now. And as part of that, what I'm going to be doing is bringing you guys discussion items based on these recommendations, so that as the local planning agency, y'all can help us come up with realistic solutions for these suggestions. Code changes, tweaks, whatever you want to call it, fine tuning. That's the next steps.
All right. And got anything else?
That's it.
On
Yeah.
what Andrew just said, the only thing that comes to mind out of this that I see that could be anything that would tweak even close to the land development code was in respect to noise. Nothing else comes to mind, but noise was one of the things that was looked at a little harder, and how our noise zones are specific. So that was the only thing I would, unless you could think of something else.
Correct. And so, we have, through our ACUs, we do have regulations concerning noise. That's something if we were to want to change code references to that, that's something that's going to require a very holistic kind of approach. Because if we start mandating additional soundproofing sound attenuation in houses and, you know, say, hey, listen, your house is this close to the runway. We're saying you need to add all this soundproofing to your house. Well, who's going to pay for that? You know, that's where I say these things have to be looked at realistic to our particular circumstances.
I mean, that's the sound of freedom, come on.
That's
It's,
they're
hard to
loud.
believe, but they're considered a transient aircraft. here,
Right, that's right. According to the AQs.
And when they did the noise profiles, and this is 2010, they did, our study was, they did it based off of F-35 noise profiles. So,
which are
and we don't,
they're loud.
we don't get noise complaints. I don't get any. Maybe random, somebody is just cursing at the sun, but, we don't really get too many noise complaints.
yeah, it's
It's a great welcoming thing, especially when you hear them coming home on Sunday. That's just awesome.
yeah.
Everybody goes outside and just looks up.
2 more weeks.
I can hear them, but F-111s took away a lot of this. So
All right, does anybody have anything else? And you said we did not need to take a vote on this?
that's correct.
Okay.
It's just a presentation. I'm
all right.
presenting it to you guys, and I'm presenting it to the BCC. We need to see your shining face.
Yeah. All right.
Excellent.
Good stuff. Well, thank you. And then I did see we had one member of the public maybe join us. Did you want to speak today? No? Okay. Great. Alrighty. Well, I do not believe we had anything else on our agenda. Do we have any updates from staff on anything? Since today was a slow day, does that mean next month will not be a slow day?
Oh, no, I only have one rezoning next month.
Okay.
Possible ordinance, but I think it's just gonna be the rezoning.
All right.
There was a denial from our recommendation. You want to talk a little bit about that? And I think they resent it back out to,
Which one,
In front of the PUD one?
parking?
yeah, the PUD one, thank you.
Right. Yeah, there was a, I wouldn't say there was a denial, but they wanted us to take a look at some things and make some modifications, and we did that with the direction, but they come back before the BCC. We looked at those things and they gave direction, and they told us to come back before the board. The March 7th, we'll be bringing back one of them before the board. That was a direction. And the other one, we're gonna be taking back to the board. Lighting.
Yeah, that's the ordinance I was talking about, but it may come back.
Right. That's coming from.
Yeah. So
That's a new ordinance, not a.
So the PAC committee recommended approval. There's some changes to the lighting ordinance for Perdido Key, and Island Authority has also made some changes. So one we'll be bringing for them. Sam will be bringing for Perdido Key.
Yep.
All right. Good stuff. Anybody have anything else? All right, then we stand adjourned. Thank you, guys.